It may sound strange, but I've been thinking a lot about dynamic tension lately. The balance of North Carolina is a great example of dynamic tension as summer tries to hang on and winter tries to pull us in. Raising a teenager is another example. In our family, we're navigating the ever-changing equilibrium between holding Caroline close and encouraging her independence. Actually, once you start looking, dynamic tension is everywhere. I'm a lawyer involved in the criminal justice system, and recent discussions of police reform illustrate the dynamic tension between wanting to police in a way that weighs less heavily on communities of color while not sacrificing public safety. You might be wondering what this all has to do with relationships, which is the theme for our reflections this month. Well, here it is. There's a dynamic tension between cultivating relationships that are comfortable and cultivating relationships that are challenging and difficult and diverse. And I submit that that tension is relevant to all of us, individually and as a congregation. Let me unpack that a little bit, and I'll start with this. Cultivating relationships is at the heart of the church experience, not just for Unitarian Universalist churches, but across all faiths and denominations. In fact, a 2018 survey by the Pew Research Center found that 89% of respondents said that being part of a community of faith was a major reason that they attend church. And I know it's important for me and my family. The smaller, intimate community that's available here at UUCH is a big reason we choose to attend here instead of somewhere else. While relationships are crucial for all churches, they may be even more important for Unitarian Universalists. Covenant, not creed, is a fantastic three-word synopsis of how Unitarian Universalism differs from the churches, synagogues, and mosques that many of us grew up with and that most folks still attend. We covenant or agree to walk together in our spiritual journeys, to support and care for one another, even if we reach very different conclusions and destinations. For us, church is more about being together than it is about believing together. And we all know that commonality can be the basis of relationships. We find it easy to talk to people who are similar to ourselves, who have similar backgrounds and interests and experiences. Our daughter Caroline is at a new school this year, and she's making friends who have the same classes or who are involved in the same extracurricular activities. It's natural that we gravitate to those relationships. Life is hard enough without every human interaction being a battle, and sometimes we all need to feel like we've found our tribe. But defaulting to relationships based on commonality has significant downsides too. One obvious impact relates to racial diversity. Most Unitarian Universalist congregations, like this one, are predominantly white. And it's not just Unitarian Universalists. Researchers at Duke University recently found that 85% of American churches are effectively segregated by race. In fact, it isn't just churches. Lots of high school cafeterias, college quads, and neighborhoods work the exact same way. Race is only one facet of the issue, though, and it actually isn't what I want to talk most about today. Unitarian Universalists can't agree on much, but I haven't met many who are politically or culturally conservative. We've got way more Birkenstocks than button-downs in this congregation. Interestingly, it didn't used to be that way. William Howard Taft, the only person ever to have served both as President of the United States and Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, was a Unitarian and a Republican. But consider these words, recently written by a politically moderate Unitarian Universalist in a letter to the UUA. At my UU congregation, I specifically avoid discussing my political affiliation. While I'm not ashamed of my political views, for some reason, I think my congregation would think less of me if I shared them. I respect the Unitarian Universalist tradition because it honors all faiths and refuses to call one valid belief right and another wholly wrong. But sometimes in practice, I see a lack of respect for other faith traditions And this same lack of respect seems apparent across the political spectrum. Worshiping in ideologically monolithic congregations is comfortable. We know which politicians we can safely belittle, and we don't need to worry about a conflict erupting over living wage initiatives or the death penalty. But it can also compound and reinforce our broader tendency to live in echo chambers or filter bubbles. It seems to me that America is becoming ever more factionalized, in part due to ideologically filtered information flows. If we're liberal, we get our news from MSNBC or CNN. If we're conservative, we tune into Fox News. And if we didn't know it already, we learned this week that Facebook would be happy to serve us a diet of ideological information tailored to our preconceived beliefs and to push us to even more polarized views. So where do we go for ideas that are unfamiliar? Where do we challenge our preconceptions and learn to understand perspectives that are fundamentally different than our own? Now, this is probably a good time to acknowledge that our congregation is diverse in many ways. We've got Jews and pagans, gay folks and straight, people with children, and those without. In recent weeks, I've been appreciating how this church brings me into contact with older adults who are incredibly vibrant and capable and engaged into their 80s and beyond. That's been an eye-opener for me and worth the price of admission. But I still think it's fair to say that there are quite a few ways in which we are comfortably homogenous, and we're missing out as a result. The Harvard Business Review recently had an article about the dangers of hiring based on fit that makes a similar point in a slightly different context. The article said this: "What most people really mean when they say someone is a good fit culturally is that he or she is someone they'd like to have a beer with. But people with all sorts of personalities can be great at the job you need done. This misguided hiring strategy can also contribute to a company's lack of diversity, since very often the people we enjoy hanging out with have backgrounds much like our own." Reading that article and other recent experiences have convinced me that I've been thinking the wrong way about hiring for years, and there are some unfortunate implications for the rest of my life too. As it pertains to church, though, when we find our congregations based on whether we fit with them, and when we attract new members based on whether they fit with us, we limit ourselves in the same ways. I'm told that every good homily needs some kind of call to action, so I'll just put it out there. I invite you to consider stretching the envelope in your relationships, whether within the congregation or outside. Have lunch with someone who tends to rub you the wrong way. Maybe that's me. Have a serious conversation with someone who sees current events very differently than you. And let's think together about making our church a welcoming place for a wide variety of people and perspectives. As Unitarian Universalist minister Shannon Harper put it, if othering or seeing persons or groups of people as somehow different or not fitting in is one of the stumbling blocks of beloved community, then relationship is the jackhammer that breaks it down. I don't know how far all of this goes. To end back where we began, there's some dynamic tension there. A church that completely abandons commonality risks incoherence. In trying to accommodate everyone, it will appeal to no one. And there are certainly some folks whose values are so repugnant to what I believe that I wouldn't want to share my Sunday mornings with them. But many of us would probably benefit from expanding our filter bubbles. It isn't easy to form relationships with and try to understand people whose backgrounds, experiences, and worldviews are dramatically different than our own. But when we struggle, we can keep in mind the wise words of Mother Teresa. People are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway.